That we live in an amazing, magical, mystifying place where there are things that are happening that we've normalized on our human societal level, and we never actually look or consider how amazing it is that we exist and that we are here, awake and aware of ourselves in this very moment at all. There are so many different things that are taking place that are just pure magic, if you're willing to be honest with yourself about it, just pure magic. But we get so caught up in certain relationship stuff or career stuff or little mini arguments or finances. And these are all parts of our lives in human reality, okay? They're valid parts of human life. But there are so many other parts of human life that are happening that we're missing. We're not appreciating. And we get super lost in these little minor things, and we feel like when something doesn't go the way we want it to, or when things aren't happening exactly the way we've been crossing all our toes and fingers for, we think that we make it within ourselves that like the world is going to stop spinning and life itself will cease to exist if we don't get this, or if this doesn't happen, or if today doesn't go the way we want it to. But see, everything really is working for you in this universe. Really, everything is working for you. Let me share some things to help you to see that, because I know, I know it does not always feel that way, does it? Okay, let's take, for example, and I hope you don't mind, I'm fully here with you, but I have to do a little bit of paddling for a moment to realign myself with my path, because I'm about to end up in some bushes. And this is, my dogs are here, and you know, they sure are making this an interesting process too. So here's some key facts, right? A fire rages through the woods, destroys everything. And you're left there thinking, that's bad. You know, that's really a bad thing. That's not the universe working for that forest, right? It just destroyed everything in there with that forest fire, right? We're confused by that. But those fires create such fertile soil that years later, all this new life can bloom. That wouldn't have been able to. That fertile ground wouldn't have been there if it weren't for that fire, right? So in destruction comes rebirth. And this is happening all around us. All around us, there are these beautiful cycles and connections between everything. I'm going to park myself right here for a second, guys, and then I'll be fully with you again. Just gotta park. You know, sometimes the waters in life can get kind of rocky. The wind blows pretty heavily. And it scares us on the human level. But all of these elements are all interconnected. Your death one day will breed new life for you in a way that all of us are going to get the chance to open the door to and experience what is beyond this when we die. But we never really stop to think about that on the human level, do we? Our own death. And it scares us. We're afraid of it. You know, just the other day I was at a Mexican food restaurant here called Casa Ramos in Mount Shasta with my parents. They were visiting. And I was talking about death and how we're going to die one day. And my mom was like, oh God, stop talking about that. And, you know, like in a, not like a super serious, she was uncomfortable, but you could tell. And there was people at tables around me that I could feel the energy kind of shift, and people were upset with what I was saying. And I realized that this is a conversation that a lot of us are scared of, but I think that we should have it. Because what if you spend your entire human life so focused on all these little minor aspects of life, like your finances and your career and how the world perceives you and all these things that we allow to completely consume us on the human level. All these things that we want to happen exactly the way we think they should. But what if you spend your entire life only appreciating those aspects of life and you miss everything else? Everything else. The fact that we live on this giant floating rock in space. The fact that you are going to die one day. And it might cause you to question and realize, hey, what am I really doing with my time here? You know? Because when you ponder your death, I promise you, when you do it, when you really are pondering it, you will become aware of a part of you that is beyond death. And you'll start to ask that part of yourself questions. You'll start to tune into it and see that there are certain things that really do matter to you, who you really are, the universe, God, source creation, the soul, who you really are, there are things that matter to you. There are things that you can accomplish in this life and appreciate and take part in that you can take with you beyond the grave. But most of the things that a lot of us find ourselves caught up in, they're not things you can take past the grave. They're things that don't really matter in the grand scheme of the universe. So we find ourselves completely overwhelmed by things happening in life, things that honestly don't even really matter. You know, just to be straight about it, I mean, it matters because you've psychologically convinced yourself that it matters. That's the truth. You know, and you can say, oh, well, Nathan, I have to go to work. I have to live in society this way. And I understand the pressure that you're feeling, but ultimately realize that you could decide, actually, I'm going to go live in the nature and like eat edible plants and, you know, grow my own food and survive and build a shelter. Or, you know what, actually, I'm not going to do this kind of work where I have a job. I'm going to travel to these islands in different countries where you can live on somebody's farm for free as long as you work like 3 hours a day. Like, what I'm trying to say is you have options. My purpose in this video is not to convince you to choose a different option, but just to understand that sometimes you feel powerless, but you always are the one in power. You choose what to align yourself with and what you allow your life to be. You know, 4 years ago, I was living personally a very different life than I am now. And it took me a while to have enough faith in myself, enough trust in the fact that the universe is working and conspiring for me to finally let go of certain things that I realized I didn't want to be my life. They made me feel sick. They made me feel trapped. I needed coffee. I needed drugs. I needed to smoke every night after work, smoke weed. I had all these things that I needed to do to be able to fit into that reality, right? Like I had to edit and change myself and inebriate myself to be able to function. And that's what a lot of people are doing, you know? And if you drink like tons of caffeine, like I'm not calling you out or anything, but it's a drug, you know? Anytime you are using something to change the way you feel, I think those are good times to ask ourselves the question, do I want to continue trying to force myself to fit in a box that I don't naturally fit into? Or am I willing to ponder the fact that I live on a giant floating rock in space? The fact that I'm alive right now in this moment is pure magic. Fire rages through forests and breeds new life, right? So from destruction comes transformation, comes rebirth. There's all these amazing things happening around us. I have a soul. I'm not just this human person. There's something that exists beyond that. You know, I'm going to die one day. You know, ask these questions and ask yourself, do you want to force yourself to fit into life? A life that other people have presented to you that you think you're supposed to do? Or are you willing to courageously step out and be who you really are? Because anytime we feel the need to change ourselves to make ourselves fit into the life that we've chosen, we should ask ourselves the question, is that really what I want to do? Or am I willing to be courageous enough spiritually to let go of the things that do not belong to me, that aren't really who I am? Am I courageous enough to stop trying to force fit myself into this box that others around me suggest I should fit into, or that I've convinced myself I have to? Am I courageous enough to walk out into the world and be what I feel in my heart? And let me remind you of something, that there are mega famous people throughout history who our whole culture and society look up to. And the funny thing is that across the board for each and every one of them, they stepped out of the status quo and they decided to be who they were. They didn't go with exactly the way everyone else was doing things. They decided, this is who I am and I'm willing to be it. And people say to them, no, it's not going to work. You're not going to succeed. And God damn it, they do. They do. Now, I'm not telling you that if you step out into life and you be who you are and you understand that everything really is conspiring for you and working for you, I'm not telling you that if you do that, you're not going to experience challenges. But what I am telling you is that you will live a very fulfilled life and that you'll begin to recognize that things really are working for you. Even things that seemingly go wrong lead to greater awareness and expansion and realization of who you really are, you know? I think it was like 7 or 8 years ago that my girlfriend, who I'd been dating for 4 or 5 years, I know a lot of you guys heard this story before, I'll keep it brief. It's just a good example, you know? You know, I thought I was going to marry her. I was like all in, like all in, you know, only to find out that she had been essentially, I'll just use the word, cheating on me for like a year and a half. And that destroyed me and devastated me. And I think to myself, life is against me. How can I trust the universe if the person I was supposed to be able to depend on most totally betrayed me in this way? But the truth is that happening led to my spiritual awakening. It led to me having new relationships I would have never had. It led to me opening up to my heart and asking the question, do I want to fit into this standard life I had been trying to force myself into, or is there something else within me that matters to me more? So you see, even that devastating thing that happened in my relationship, it happened for me. It is one of the greatest gifts anybody has ever given me in my life. I swear to God, top 3 greatest gifts anyone's ever given to me. So I'm not even mad at her. I have no resentment to her because I know that on a spiritual level, on a soul level, she did that for me. That is pure unconditional love. So what I want to help you to see is that fire that rages through the forest and burns everything down, that's unconditional love. There is nothing that is separate from it. There is nothing that is happening in this world that isn't happening for you. And I know you know that to your core. Thanks. Much love to you. Live life the way it feels to you. That's what matters most. See you for the next video, friends.